Finish the race, keep the faith. For some reason, hearing that sets my mind to some events in the year 1974. I wasn't around then, but, President Nixon had resigned. ABBA won Eurovision with their famous song about the fight at Waterloo. And according to Carl Douglas, everybody was kung fu fighting. Try and get that out of your head today. This past week or so, we had more fighting of different kinds. Prime Minister Netanyahu, in his Arnold Schwarzenegger-like voice, was celebrating peace through strength after US and Israeli attacks on Iran. And I wondered for a time whether Iranian alliances with China and Russia would mean an escalation into a truly global conflict, which got me thinking about the implications of such a scenario with people in my network, people in your networks of family and friends who might be military-aged males fighting. I heard from my boy's teacher this week that at lunchtime at his school, he loves to run outside and have huge imaginary battles, living his best life. And I was probably about that age when my brother and I started having battles and play fights and belting the living daylights out of each other, and that was a great time. The reality is, fighting is a universal fact of the human experience. But it is dangerous, always, can often be brutal, and even having a cursory third-hand awareness of what can occur in war, this is an area to tread lightly, very carefully. But Christians are called to fight the good fight. Fight the good fight. What does that mean? I note that some churches take inspiration from that quite literally, like there's an Anglican or Church of England church in southeast London which runs a boxing club with Christian outreach at its heart. I think that's pretty cool. But let's begin with that phrase, the good fight. So in Greek, the word there for fight is agona. Agona. It's where we get the English word agony or agonize from. But originally, agon meant more than pain and suffering. It referred to a contest, a struggle. It was used in ancient Greek to describe the athletic competitions in the Olympic Games. The agon was the arena, the place of challenge, effort, discipline. So the author of the letter isn't talking about just any fight. He isn't speaking of bitterness, vengeance, or conquest. He's saying, I've struggled well. I have contended honourably. I've run my course with integrity. I didn't just fight, I fought the good fight. Think of what this means on this day when we remember St. Peter, the fisherman called from his nets, the impulsive one, the one who walked on water and sank, the one who said, even if everyone else leaves, I'll stay. And yet he denied Jesus 3 times. Think of Paul, the Pharisee, persecutor of the early church, zealous student of the law, who thought he was fighting for God until he met Jesus on the road to Damascus and realised he'd been fighting against the Lord. 2 men with very different beginnings, both end up in Rome, both end up in chains, both end up dying for Christ. They each fought their own battles. Peter had to learn courage and humility. That was his fight. Paul had to learn grace, surrender, how to see God in the very people he'd once tried to destroy. But they both fought the good fight. not just because they suffered in itself, but because they bore witness to Jesus in how they suffered. And they finished the race and they kept the faith. So when we hear the word fight, it can stir up the wrong images. But this isn't about conquering others. In this verse, this is about conquering self. It's about conquering self. Growing to be able to proclaim truth in love. It's not about domination. It's about transformation. To fight the good fight is to bring everything we are into conformity with the pattern of life given to us in Jesus the Christ. It's to show up with compassion, to hold fast to what is right when it's easier to give in, to speak grace when there's bitterness all around. And yeah, it can be a hidden struggle. Peter's good fight was often internal, like grappling with that guilt after denying Christ, learning how to shepherd the infant church with love but firmness. Paul's good fight took him across cities, shipwrecks, beatings, imprisonments, all for the sake of the gospel, telling people that in Jesus God was reconciling the world, forgiving sins, had died and lived again. Neither man was perfect, neither had it easy, but they kept going, kept trusting, both kept the faith. So if the Christian life is an agon, it's not always agony, but a contest, a race, a struggle, then we're called into the arena, right? We're asked, are you going to show up? Will you endure with grace? Will you fight well? Not necessarily with fists and fury, but with all those qualities proper to the kingdom of God. We're not all called to martyrdom, Lord have mercy. But even if we were, we are called to witness, to be those like Peter and Paul who their lives are so shaped by Christ that even imperfectly will reflect his light into the world. There will be moments in life when the temptation is to give up, give in, and get comfy, right? But the fight is not finished. You're still in the ring. Even if you are getting to an age when the Lord may call you home, you've got a chance to model that well, like the author of the letter to Timothy urges. But just read this letter. It's only a short letter. Just read it cover to cover today to get a sense of the power of his pastoral urging for those whom he loves. He knows that his own time is near, but he has no regrets. He doesn't boast in what he's achieved, but he testifies to what God has done in and through him. He knows he will soon die, but he sees the crown of righteousness ahead. And that's the other beautiful thing about this passage. It points not just backwards to the fight that has been fought, but forward. It continues. From now on, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness. There is something at the end of the race, something more than exhaustion, more than martyrdom. There is joy. There is rest. There is glory. The Christian life leads somewhere. The finish line is the kingdom. To keep the faith is to hold on to Christ when everything else slips away. It's to entrust your life into the hands of God even when the path is dark. It is to say, as the writer says earlier in the letter, I know whom I have believed, and I'm convinced that he is able to guard what I've entrusted him until that day. Peter and Paul are inspiring because they didn't keep their faith apart, right? Like safe and clean and tidy. They kept it in action, lived it, preached it, suffered for it. And in the end, they were not ashamed of what they fought for. The Church of Jesus Christ needs men and women who will fight the good fight, not with anger or pride, but with integrity, compassion, and truth. I mean, if you want to fight, I mean, we can all join a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, and it might be great, actually. But we've got to finish the race, not by trampling over others, but by walking humbly with God. Keep the faith not as a set of rules, but as a living relationship with Jesus Christ. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith. And at the end, whether our race is long or short, whether we stumble or soar, may we, like Peter and Paul, be able to say with peace and trust and joy, I've given all I had. I've run my course. I've loved the Lord. And to whom else could we go? To whom else could we go? And may we too receive the crown that does not fade. The Lord be with you.